As we arrived at the northern border of Bahano, the guards stopped our carriage. "Hello." I greeted them with a smile. They were surprised and straightened their posture, then bowed their heads to me. "Oh, leader, how are you?" The influence of the leader of Cairo's church was stronger than I thought in Bahano. "Where are you going?" "I have something to see." "I see. Well, okay, please go ahead." Without any further explanation, the guards let our carriage pass easily. As expected of the leader, Karu looked at me with shining eyes. It wasn't such a big deal, though. We didn't go far before our carriage stopped. Our destination was the Black Moon Lake. It was a dangerous area, but it wasn't far from the northern border of Bahano, so it didn't take much time to get there. "Thank you." I handed some money to the coachman and looked around. Now we have no other means of transportation, so I guess I have to ask Troy. I felt sorry and hesitated to say anything. Then Troy transformed into a black panther on his own. "Master, I'm fine, so get on." Troy knew that the distance to Black Moon Lake was quite long and he was considerate of us. "Thank you always, Troy." "No, I will always assist the master, so there's no need to apologize or thank me." He was so kind. He's truly my child. I grabbed Troy's soft fur and climbed onto his broad back. Zane followed me naturally. He used to be scared of Troy, but he seemed to have adapted by now. "Wow, Troy is a Mont tribe." And Kadu looked at Troy with bright eyes. He examined Troy from all angles and then smiled brightly and followed us onto Troy's back. "Wow, thank you so much, Troy. It's nothing. Hold on tight. We're leaving now." After Kadu settled in, Troy started running. The Black Panther's sprint cut through the barren land without hesitation. I couldn't even open my eyes properly and held onto Troy's fur tightly. "Whoa, this is so fun." Kadu's innocent voice of joy reached my ears. Zane, on the other hand, seemed to be speechless. Thanks to Troy's sprint, we were able to reach the vicinity of Black Moon Lake in no time. Troy stopped and we got off him. Then Troy returned to his human form. "That's Black Moon Lake over there." "Yeah, I can see that." I could tell without Zane's explanation. Black Moon Lake was a bit far away, but it was so wide that I couldn't see the whole thing at once. It looked like a sea, and that was our destination. The terrain around here is strange. Indeed, it doesn't look like a lake shore. As Cairo said, the terrain around Black Moon Lake was bizarre. There were lush grasses growing everywhere, but there were also pillars of stone rising up here and there. They varied in size and shape, and they looked like they were artificially made at a glance. I knew it wasn't ordinary from seeing it on the game screen, but it was even stranger in reality. Grrrr. As I looked around for a moment, a nasty cry came from behind a stone pillar as tall as a building. I knew it wasn't quiet. Black Moon Lake was a place where you had to beat up a lot of monsters to get through for a quest. I had hoped for the best, but of course I couldn't pass by quietly. "Be careful, everyone." I took out the holy mace from my inventory and told my companions. Zane and Troy quickly got into battle mode, and Kadu took out the hammer he had been carrying on his back. "One-horned orcs," Zane said as he saw the monsters coming out from behind the stone pillar. They were dark green orcs with one horn. They were about 2 meters tall, taller than me. Orcs are dull but strong, so you have to avoid their attacks. I nodded at Zane's explanation. "My little bird, be strong, don't worry." I answered Cairo's and lifted my foot. Then 6 orcs charged at us. Thud, thump, thud. The ground shook as if there was an earthquake from the heavy orc's charge. I barely kept my balance and hit the abdomen of the orc that ran at me first. Splurt. Ugh. The orc vomited green fluid. Yuck, it got all over my mace. I pulled out my mace in a hurry, and the one-horned orc that was attacked by me rolled on the ground. With thwack. An arrow imbued with power hit the eye of the orc that was behind it. Crash-hack. Another orc fell with a scream of pain, and Troy attacked another one with his sharp claws. Splurt. Thwack. Then Kadu joined the battle and hit the orc's leg. Swoosh. I quickly jumped into the air and swung my mace at the one-horned orcs without stopping. Ha! The battle ended quickly thanks to our combined attack. The orcs all lay on the ground, breathless. Huff, huff, you all huff, really huff, fight well. Kadu breathed heavily and smiled at us. Sweat dripped from his forehead. Phew, I was so nervous that my hands are still shaking. Come to think of it, Kadu had never fought before. He was clearly soaked in sweat from the tension. Brother, you don't have to join the fight if you don't want to. I spoke to Kadu with a merciful smile. We three had done all the fighting this time as well. No, this is for saving my brother. I can't just sit back, haha. Still, don't push yourself too hard. Yes, don't worry. He had such a likable personality. I thought so as I brushed off the orc's fluid from my mace. Then I saw Zane collecting the horns of the one-horned orcs. Zane, what are you going to do with those? Troy, who was watching Zane, couldn't help but ask. Zane put the orc's horns in his bag and retorted disdainfully. The horns of the one-horned orcs are used as medicinal ingredients. They're worth quite a bit. Zane, you're really resourceful. He said so, but Troy's expression didn't show any sincerity. Even after the battle with the one-horned orcs, more monsters attacked us. From three-tailed scorpions to desert rabbits, we fought every monster we encountered. Kadu dropped out in the middle, but he wasn't a significant number to begin with, so we didn't lose any strength. The only real problem was that there were so many monsters that Zane was exhausted, and Troy seemed to have consumed a lot of stamina. After the battle was somewhat over, I handed them healing potions. Drink. They also have fatigue recovery effects. Do I have to? Zane looked at me with a "you're wasting this expensive thing on fatigue recovery. How much money do you have?" Look, but I shook my head firmly. Thankfully, Troy drank the healing potion on his own. Now that their stamina was somewhat restored, it was time to move. As soon as the brief rest was over, the battle continued. We killed the endless stream of monsters and gradually approached Black Moon Lake. Just when we had killed 5 three-tailed scorpions, Kadu had found something. It was an object stuck in the gap of a stone pillar. It was a necklace made of various animal and monster teeth. It's Lufu's tooth necklace. Kadu picked it up and looked at me. He must have left it here as a sign for me to find him. He must be around here. Okay, brother, calm down. If you raise your voice, more monsters will come. I calmed down the excited Kadu. Kadu nodded and put the necklace in his chest. We quietly continued our search. We dealt with the occasional monsters and finally reached Black Moon Lake. The Black Moon Lake looked like an endless sea up close. But the water of the lake was so dark that it didn't feel like it was of this world. I felt a creepy feeling that if I fell into the lake, I would never come back. My child, be careful. There's something in there. Yes, I'll be careful. Kairos had a good sense. He realized that there was something sinister under the lake even though it was his first time here. But, yeah, I didn't want to face it either. As I looked at the lake water, Kadu's scream rang out. Lufu. In the center of Black Moon Lake, there was a large rock sticking out. On top of it, there was a nest-like structure made of various grasses and branches, and there was a dwarf who looked just like Kadu. How can this be, Lufu? Kadu cried and threw himself towards the Black Moon Lake. Calm down, brother. If I hadn't grabbed his arm, Kadu would have already fallen into the lake. Lufu is right there. Brother, calm down. First of all, there might be monsters in this lake, so we have to be careful. But Lufu is right in front of me. What if he's badly hurt or already dead? Kadu sobbed and pleaded, then Troy grabbed Kadu's shoulder. Don't worry, fortunately your brother is alive. He doesn't seem to have any serious injuries. Don't get too excited, dwarf brother. This guy is a Mont tribe. He has exceptional vision and smell, so he must be telling the truth. Zane also calmed Kadu down, and then Kadu finally settled down. I see, that's a relief, and I'm sorry, leader. No, brother. Well, the problem now was how to save Lufu. As I pondered over the distant Lufu, Zane spoke first. People avoid Black Moon Lake not only because of the number of monsters around, but Zane looked at the lake and continued. Because of the black moon bear that lives in the lake. That nest in the middle also belongs to the black moon bear. Zane, how do you know that so well? You're smart. Well, this kind of information is common sense. The biggest reason I didn't want to come here in the first place was because of that thing. Black Moon Lake was quite famous, so many people knew about it. Troy didn't seem to know, though, that was possible. Yes, there's a fearsome bear in this lake. Kadu also nodded and said, yes, I also read about the bear in a book, and we have to kill the Black Moon Bear to save Lufu, brother. Lufu was in the middle of the lake. We couldn't cross without killing the monster that lived in the lake. Bubbling. Then bubbles started to rise from the lake near where we were standing. Everyone back off. Everyone backed away at my shout. I clenched my mace and watched the lake. Splash! At that moment the dark lake water parted and the Black Moon Bear finally showed itself. Ugh, what is that? I heard my companions gasp in shock, and I just blinked, unable to do anything. The Black Moon Bear that we faced was incredibly huge. The part that was visible above the lake was more than 3 meters long, and its body was at least 4 times bigger than a human. It looked like a black bear, but it had long fangs protruding from its mouth and claws as long as a sword on its front paws. Eek! As Kadu shrieked, the Black Moon Bear moved. It swung its front paw at us, glaring at us with ferocity. Bang! Fortunately, no one was hit by the bear's paw, but its destructive power was astonishing. The ground was cratered, as if it had been struck by a meteor. Everyone snap out of it and attack. Got it, master. Yes, sir. At my shout, Troy ran towards the Black Moon Bear, and Zane also took out his bow. I followed them with my mace and headed for the Black Moon Bear. Whoosh! The bear's massive arm aimed at me precisely. I rolled quickly and avoided the attack, but I sneezed while rolling on the ground. My child, I can endure this much. I had blood on my knee, but I had no time to care about such a minor injury. I hurriedly got up. Then I saw Troy dodging the bear's attack and slashing with his claws. His claws were like well-sharpened blades. They attacked the bear's arm, but they only grazed it, not leaving a deep wound. Squeak! Zane's arrow flew at the right moment, but it couldn't even pierce the bear's skin. Zane, aim for the eyes. I gave Zane an order and ran towards the bear without waiting for his answer. I used the momentum from running and leaped. I struck the bear's arm with my mace. Bang! I heard a crunching sound of bones breaking. It hurt. Grrrr! The bear screamed in pain and swung its arm wildly at me. With a sound of cutting through the air, both arms attacked me at the same time. It was so fast that I wondered if I could dodge it with my injured leg. Pull yourself together, my child. I was in a daze, as if the game I enjoyed comfortably and the reality where life and death were at stake overlapped. Master, someone caught me. It was Troy. Are you okay? Ah, thank you, Troy. Don't space out. Sorry, I hurt my leg. Is it bad? Not really. While we were talking briefly, the bear prepared for the next attack. It aimed at us and swung both arms. At that moment, crack, Zane's arrow pierced the bear's left eye. Krrr, sir, are you okay? Good job, Zane. The bear groaned in agony. Troy didn't miss the chance and continued his attack. Don't lose your focus in battle, my child. Yes, Kairos, I was just startled. I observed the battle situation and thought, it seemed better to switch to long-range attack than to swing my mace in this state. So I raised my left arm and gathered my energy. It seems like I have more energy than before. I thought so and released my energy. Whoosh! The bright light that flew out. It blew off the top of the bear's forehead. The resulting fluid scattered in the air. Splash! The Black Moon Bear fell into the lake. There was no more movement. Sir, what is that? How can you have such power when we've been struggling so much? I didn't know either. What do you mean? Zane looked at me with a puzzled look. Master, are you okay? My goodness. Troy and Kadu came to me in surprise. The one who was more surprised than them was me. The size of the energy release I used just now was similar to before, but the density of the power was much stronger than before, about twice as much. After the Bahano incident, it was the first time I used energy release. I didn't know my power was this much. Of course, it was much weaker than when I faced Hellies, but still I didn't expect to have such destructive power. You're amazing, my child. No wonder I felt more energy gathering when I used energy release. As my power increased, so did my energy consumption. But I could control that part, so I had to adjust it later. By the way, because of the Bahano incident, the number of believers increased and I received a lot of energy from Kairos. That's why I could release such power. The Black Moon Bear itself was not that strong of a monster, but still, this is much stronger than me swinging my mace. Maybe I should also infuse some energy into my mace like Zane. As I thought so, I suddenly realized that the quest was not completed. Troy, the bear is dead, right? Yes, it's completely dead. This meant that I had to get Luffy out of the Black Moon Bear's nest to complete the quest. Excuse me, master, when will Luffy? I was thinking of a way to do that, brother. I was wondering if I had to swim across the Black Moon Lake. I didn't want to go into the lake where the monster's corpse was. While I was hesitating to speak, Troy transformed into a black panther. I'll bring him back, Troy said, and went to the edge of the lake. He moved to the closest spot between the Black Moon Bear's nest and the land, and the Black Panther leaped in one go. Oh my! Wow! As expected of the Mont tribe, Zane, Kadu, and I admired Troy. Troy landed on the Black Moon Bear's nest and bit Luffy's clothes in his mouth, and he leaped again with force and came back to us. Oh, Luffy! Troy put Luffy down on the ground and Kadu ran to Luffy, crying. In the meantime, Troy returned to his human form. Good job, Troy. It's nothing. I patted Troy's shoulder and praised him. I was glad that Troy was on my side. Luffy, wake up. On the other hand, Kadu shook Luffy's body, who had lost consciousness, while sobbing. Luffy looked just like Kadu, but he wore different clothes and had a big mantis on his forehead, and there were scratches all over his body. It seems that he barely survived after being caught by the Black Moon Bear at the lake. The Black Moon Bear keeps its prey in its nest to preserve its freshness. It doesn't know when it will get more food, but it doesn't eat every day, it eats every 3 days, so I think we were lucky to save him in time. I frowned at Zane's explanation. It was like throwing away the mood. I produced a healing potion from my inventory and approached Luffy. Excuse me, brother, and I pushed Kadu away and gave Luffy the healing potion. Soon, Luffy's eyelids opened. Where is this? Subquest Dwarf Rescue Operation Clear. Dwarf Rescue Operation Subquest Reward is given. You get Dwarf's Gratitude as a subquest reward. Dwarf's Gratitude, you can request item production from Kadu and Luffy. Limited to 3, the quest was finally completed. Luffy, are you awake? Kadu, why are you here? I was sure. I came to save you, you bastard. I smiled at Kadu and Luffy's reunion, and I turned my eyes and read the system message. Dwarf's Gratitude must be a production reward, but the item production is only 3. It's a pity, but 3 dwarf-made items were a good result. Luffy, I told you, right? I became a believer of Kairos Church. Oh yeah, you wrote that in the letter. This is the leader of the Kairos Church, and the person next to him is Troy of the Mont tribe, and this is Zane. Kadu introduced us to Luffy and told him about the journey that brought us here. I prayed to Kairos and they came. That's how I was able to save you. Oh, really? I see. Thank you very much. I thought I was dead when I was caught by the Black Moon Bear. Luffy bowed his head politely to us. No, it was your brother's request. I smiled kindly and said, and Kadu hugged Luffy's shoulder and looked up at me. Leader, thank you very much. I want to repay you for this. Yes. You are my lifesaver, so if you need anything, I will do my best to make it for you, even if it's impossible. We are the best craftsmen among the dwarves, you know. Kadu and Luffy's eyes sparkled, and Zane poked my side. I knew what he meant without him saying anything, but I had to get out of here first. Let's move to a safe place first. We killed the monsters around the lake and got out of the Black Moon Lake area on Troy. When we reached the barren land where no monsters appeared, Kadu and Luffy came to me again. Master, just tell us. Yes, We want to repay you as much as we can. I answered them with a smile. Then can you make one piece of equipment for each of us? Of course. Sure. Zane and Troy's expressions brightened. I was going to take all 3 of the dwarf-made items, but I decided to give one to Zane and Troy each. I just had to get the things that were hidden all over the world, but even among them the number of defensive items was small, so it was not a bad thing to get one dwarf-made item if I got the chance. Wow, I'm touched. Master. Master, thank you. What? It's natural. You're so considerate of my child. Zane and Troy were the ones who would be with me for a long time, so it was an investment for the future. Properly made dwarf equipment is not something you can buy with money. Sometimes people would enslave the dwarves and make them produce equipment like a factory, but those equipment always caused problems later. In that sense, proper equipment was like having reliable insurance, so it was not bad at all to have it. When I thought that, the 2 dwarves asked us a common question. Then what kind of equipment do you want? I want a bow. I want armor. I want something that can protect my body, something that I can carry lightly. A necklace or a bracelet would be fine. My words were longer than Zane and Troy's, and Kadu and Lufu pondered. The 2 of them discussed with each other and asked carefully, Master, do you want something that can use magic, that is, an artifact? Yes, I want it to activate a protective effect when I want it. First of all, we can make the equipment for Zane and Troy right away, but for an artifact, we need a special material. Magic stone. Zane answered Kadu's words. As a merchant, he knew about magic stones. Yes, that's right. We need a magic stone, a special mineral that can hold magic. Unfortunately, I didn't have a magic stone. Magic stones were hard to get in the market, and even if I got them, they were only low-grade magic stones. I didn't want a low-grade magic stone that was worthless, but I knew very well where to get a high-grade magic stone. So why don't you go to our village first? It was the dwarves' village. To be precise, it wasn't the dwarf village, but that place near it. Are you talking about the dwarf village? I asked Kadu. Yes, that's right. Master, if we want to make good quality equipment, we have to make it at our forge in the village, and we also have our magic stones in the village. I see, I answered with a smile. I knew well that that place was near the dwarf village, but I had never been to the dwarf village when I played the game of dominance, so I was very excited. Wow, I never thought we would go to the dwarf village. I'm looking forward to it. It was a relief that Zane and Troy seemed happy too. It will be fun. Indeed. I had a brief conversation with Kairos. When Troy transformed into a black panther, he was now changing automatically, which made me grateful and sad. Our village is close to Bahano, so we'll arrive soon, Kadu said as he climbed on Troy's back. When everyone was ready to leave, Troy moved. The dwarf village was a place that appeared when you went east from the Black Moon Lake. I felt a thrill as if I was going on a trip. Turn left, turn right, go around, and turn right again. The front is a gravel road, so slow down, please. Can't you stop that? It makes me feel bad. What do you mean? I'm just telling you the way. Don't you not know the direction? Master, is it weird that I feel bad right now? Just bear with it, Troy. It's true that we don't know the way. The enthusiastic dwarf's guidance and Troy's fast speed combined to reveal the destination quickly. After running for about 10 minutes, the barren land ended and a meadow appeared. Beyond the vast meadow, there was a huge, rocky mountain. The dwarf village was right next to the rocky mountain. Wow, this is where the dwarves live. It's amazing. I looked around as I heard Zane and Troy's admiration. The dwarf village was quite cute. I guess it's because the dwarves are short. The houses were smaller than the buildings I had seen in general, but they were big enough to enter if I bowed my head. And the architectural style was more crude than Bahano, Aldone, or Herfian Empire. But the weapons and equipment that the dwarves carried were excessively fancy. It's interesting. They built houses roughly and only focused on item making. The village's view was nothing but rocky mountains, so there was no natural scenery to speak of. At best, there was only a small forest. Hey Kadu, you're back, but who are those humans behind you? Oh my, that person is the leader of the Kairos church that I saw in Bahano. What? As we entered the dwarf village, the eyes of the dwarves who were walking around the street were drawn to us. Oh my, the leader is visiting us. There were dwarves who recognized me, which meant that there were Kairos church believers here too. Kadu was one of them, and it's close to Bahano, so it makes sense. Naturally, there must have been believers who came and went from Bahano. That's right, right? Of course. By the way, they are all so cute. Kairos smiled like a child as he liked the dwarves. Kadu Lufu. As I greeted the dwarves with a business smile, an old dwarf came from inside the village. Kadu and Lufu ran to him as soon as they saw him. Father. Oh, my children, did you have a good trip? I missed you. Kadu and Lufu hugged their father like children. They were adorable. Father, actually this happened. Kadu and Lufu immediately explained to their father what had happened so far. The dwarves who were gathered also heard about what had happened at the Black Moon Lake. So that's what happened. You are our benefactor. As expected, you are the leader. Zane, Troy, thank you. The dwarves' unexpected assault of warm affection made Zane and Troy a little embarrassed, but they soon accepted it all. I also smiled and replied to them. I am Kadu and Lufu's father and the chief of this village, Mas. I had heard his name in the quest, so I roughly knew who he was. I greeted Mas politely. I am the leader of the Kairos church, Leviathan. Thank you for saving Lufu. I really appreciate it, and thank you to both of you. Mas hugged me tightly. I almost screamed without knowing it. Mas's strength was no joke. He was not a dwarf for nothing. The day is late, so stay the night and go. Mas said with a smile. It was already dark when we left for the dwarf village, so I was going to do that anyway. And let's have a simple festival for the benefactors of Lufu. After Mas' declaration of the festival, we were guided to the accommodation with the biggest bed in the village. Thud, ouch, be careful, Zane. The buildings in the dwarf village were mostly low, so it was easy to hit your head. Zane was especially prone to hitting his head. Ugh, I'm trying to be careful, but this happens. Zane, you're stupid. You little. Whether they fought or not, I sat on the bed. The bed that the dwarves used was really big compared to them. It must be uncomfortable. As soon as I lay down, Kairos said, my legs fit perfectly, but it's soft, so it's okay. Unlike me, Zane and Troy's feet were sticking out of the bed. I didn't feel very good seeing that. Leader, are you uncomfortable anywhere? Kadu stuck his head through the open window. Yes, brother, I'm fine. Then hurry up and come out. Everything is ready. It's modest, but let's enjoy it together. Finally, I got up from the bed and left the room. As soon as I went out, the smell of meat wafted over. I was hungry anyway, so I followed Kadu in a hurry. Zane and Troy followed me closely. Here you are. In the center of the dwarf village, bonfires were burning brightly. Various monster meats were skewered on several bonfires. I've eaten it before, so I don't have any aversion to it now. I sat down proudly at the place Kadu guided me to. Zane and Troy came to my side, and Mas, Kadu, and Lufu sat across from me. Drink as much as you want, and get drunk without any regrets. The party started at Mas' words. I ate the monster meat comfortably and drank the dwarf's special beer. Wow, it's really delicious. Me too, I want to eat it too. Please restrain yourself if you can. I'll have to go to the temple and eat it. If you ask Jacob, he'll make it for you. Come back soon. I bid farewell to Kairos and focused on eating. Yawn. I stretched and got up from the bed. I had enjoyed a lot of food and drink last night, but my body was light. It was fun. Last night was really fun. The dwarves' songs and dances were fun, and their homemade beer was very tasty. Ugh, master, you're up already. Zane, who had just woken up, greeted me with a scowl, but he couldn't open his eyes. Fortunately, last night Zane didn't cry and complain about his life like before. The alcohol content of the beer was not that high, so that was why. Are you hungover? Yes. I feel like I'm going to die, and drank the whole bottle of water on the bedside table. The sound woke Troy up, who was sleeping on the floor. Ugh, water. He also looked for water as soon as he woke up. Troy, who drank a whole bottle of water, couldn't straighten his face like Zane. Ugh, I'm dying. You should have drunk moderately. As I said lightly while stretching, their eyes turned to me. Why are you staring at me? You drank more than us, Master. That's right. Master drank more than us. You should be grateful that you don't have a hangover. Well, that's not my fault. Maybe it was because of the 1,000-year-old wine of Zine effect that I didn't get drunk easily and didn't have a hangover. Knock, knock. When I was about to go for some morning exercise, someone came. When I opened the door of the room, I saw Kadu and Lufu. The two dwarves handed me a tray with soup. Leader, good morning. Here's your breakfast. When you're comfortable, please come to the biggest forge in the village. Ah, yes, thank you. As I took the tray, the two dwarves sang and walked away. They were cute. Zane, Troy, come and eat. What? I'm not eating. Me neither. Troy even refused breakfast. What can I do? You have to eat this all if you want me to make your equipment. As I laid down the rule, the two finally jumped out. They should have done that sooner. After finishing our meal, we headed to Kadu and Lufu's forge. It was a large forge that could be seen at a glance without the explanation from the two. It was the tallest in the village. Come this way. Inside the forge there were various weapons and armor made by the two dwarves. They were all of good quality and they could sell them and make a lot of money. Master, can't you just give me a few? You sold your conscience, Zane. It's like you, but no. Tusk, how much money would it make if I sold it? I ignored Zane, whose shoulders were drooping, and approached Kadu and Lufu. Kadu placed a transparent blue stone on the anvil. A faint aura flickered on the blue stone that shone like a jewel. This is a magic stone. There are low, medium, high, and above that the highest grade of magic stones. And this is the medium-grade magic stone we have. Kadu and Lufu explained about the magic stones to us. All magic stones have inherent magic that manifests as a faint aura, and the grades are distinguished by color. Low grade is yellow, medium grade is blue, high grade is red, and the highest grade is white. I would like to use the highest grade magic stone if I could, but we only have this medium grade and low grade magic stone. I knew well that magic stones were rare in the original work. Magic stones were essential for making artifacts that could use magic, but magic stones were very rarely found in mines, so they were very rare. Master, you may not know, but this medium-grade magic stone is worth a lot. Really? Yes, that one alone would be enough for a middle-class family's living expenses for a year. I didn't care much about money because Cairo's church had plenty of it, but I was a little shaken when I heard Zane's story. No, I have to make an artifact. As I shook myself, Kadu cautiously opened his mouth. If you're okay with it, leader, we'll start making it with the medium-grade magic stone. Is there no way to get a higher-grade magic stone? I pretended not to know, even though I knew everything, and asked. Then Kadu and Lufu scratched their necks as if they were in trouble and said, "There is, but it's dangerous. But I think you might be able to do it, leader." Then Zane poked me in the ribs. "Master, you have to do it. Whether it's high or the highest grade, you have to get it. I'll do it even if you tell me not to, you bastard." "What is that method?" I asked Kadu, who pondered for a while and slowly gave me an answer. "There is a mine near the village. There are top-grade magic stones there, but it's very dangerous, maybe even more than the Black Moon Lake." Kadu's expression was full of worry, but I was fine because I knew where he was talking about. "Is it that dangerous?" Zane looked worried somehow. "Zane, don't worry, we have the leader, didn't you see? The leader is a scammer who hid his power." Troy pointed at me and reassured Zane. I was grateful that he trusted me so much, but was that a compliment? I wondered for a moment and looked at Troy, who avoided my gaze somehow. That guy, he was good at talking when Kairos appeared last time. Meanwhile, Zane's attitude changed a bit from before as Troy's words were convincing. Then, Zane kept pondering. I grabbed his shoulder and said, "If you don't like it, just rest in the village." "Really?" Zane's face brightened. This kid, he must have wanted to avoid going. Zane, are you really going to rest? The master said I could. Pathetic. What good are you if you're so scared? I'm not scared, I'm just lazy. No, why do I have to explain to you? These guys never had a day without fighting. I ignored them and asked Kadu. Where is that mine? Kadu and Luffy decided to guide us personally, so we followed the two dwarves out of the village. You're going with us anyway, so why did you resist? I smiled at Zane, who came along after all. Ha, really? He glared at Troy and sighed deeply. Zane, who was bickering with Troy, ended up joining us somehow. This way. The place where Kadu and Luffy led us was not the big rock mountain of the dwarf village, but another rock mountain next to it. This is the mine. There was a fairly large mine where Kadu and Luffy stopped. There are top-grade magic stones inside. I believe you can do well, leader, but still be careful. If you feel it's dangerous, back right away. Yes, you have to come back safely. Kadu and Luffy looked at me with moist eyes. I smiled and said to them, don't worry. Then we'll be making your equipment first. We wanted to give you something useful, but we don't have anything to offer you right now. It's okay. Be careful. Kadu and Luffy kept urging us and left. After the two dwarves left, I took out a club from my inventory. Zane, Troy, get ready. Yes, I understand. Master, I'm always ready. After confirming that the two were ready for battle, I stepped into the mine. You have discovered the hidden dungeon Minor Mole's mine. The hidden quest Minor Mole extermination has occurred. Hidden quest occurred. Hidden quest Minor Mole extermination content. There is a minor mole living in the mine that loves ore very much. The minor mole has a special ore that he cherishes, though he mined and consumed from all kinds of ores. You never know. If you kill the minor mole, you might find that ore. Goal: exterminate the minor mole's success. Obtain the minor mole's ore failure. Do you accept? Yes/no. I skimmed through the quest and accepted it. In the original game, I didn't do this mole extermination hidden quest after clearing it once. The hidden dungeon of the mine was one of the easiest among the hidden quests, so it was not fun for me, who was a multiplayer, to clear it, and it was not a necessary part of the game progress. It's similar to a boring subquest. Besides, unlike the 1,000-year-old genie, there was nothing to gain from the mole itself. That is, the only thing to get from this hidden dungeon was the top-grade magic stone. Of course, the top-grade magic stone itself is a pretty good reward. As I was thinking about the quest, we entered the entrance of the mine. The inside of the mine was marked with traces of the dwarves' use. There were a few ores rolling around, and pickaxes used for mining were scattered. Ugh, it reminds me of the genie's cave. Zane muttered with a twisted face as he looked around the inside of the mine. The mine was no different from a cave, so it reminded him of the memory with the genie. On the other hand, Troy looked fine. Well, he met the genie before he met Troy, so he must have had no bad experience. I don't know what's inside, but I can feel a strong energy, just like I felt at the lake. Really? Yeah, be careful. Even if the difficulty was easy, it was a hidden dungeon, so Kairos seemed to feel the energy properly. But judging by the comparison with the lake, it's not as bad as the genie. I was worried that the hidden route's characteristic difficulty spike would occur here. Fortunately, squeak. That's when it happened. In the dark interior, yellow eyes appeared. Their numbers were about 30. Squeak. Thud, thud, thud. As soon as the short cry ended, the monster mine rat, which was 3 times bigger than a normal rat, started to swarm. Ugh. I groaned softly. That's why I didn't come here. I had met many monsters, but these ones felt especially disgusting. They looked bad on the monitor, but even worse in reality. That's why I clenched my mace tightly when I heard Zane's low chuckle. Do you have something you're afraid of, master? I'm not afraid, I'm disgusted. It's the same thing. This kid, I glared at Zane and then I saw something black running out. Thud, it was Troy who had transformed into a black panther. Oh right, he was a cat. Go, cat. I cheered for Troy in my mind and smiled. Slash. Troy's long claws mercilessly slashed the gray rats. Squeak, squeak. Indeed, cats are the best. Good job, Troy. I unconsciously shouted to cheer for Troy, and then I felt a gaze. Zane was looking at me, trying hard to hold back his laughter. At the same time, I heard Kairos' laughter. Our little bird has something he's afraid of too. I'm not afraid, okay? You look like you are. No, I'm not. As I vehemently denied Kairos' words, Troy came back after finishing the battle. Behind him, I saw the corpses of the rats that had lost their vitality and focus. Good work, Troy. No, it was easy. It felt like my instincts came alive for the first time in a while. It was fun too. That's because panthers are cats. I swallowed the unnecessary words and patted Troy's shoulder, praising him generously, and we went inside again. The inside of the mine had only one path so far, so we followed it. Wow. In the meantime, Zane started picking up some of the ores that were rolling on the floor. Zane, why are you picking those up? Why? Zane looked at Troy with contempt. You idiot, of course it's because they're money, he seemed to answer without saying. And Troy looked at Zane with pity. They both looked down on each other. They are interesting kids. They're only interesting once or twice. I was sick of seeing them every day. Zane, I told you before, if you show off your money too much, you'll lose all your hair from your body. Do you believe that nonsense? How naive. It's not nonsense, it's true. It starts from your head and falls off. Even now, every morning, your pillow has more hair than the master's. What, you bastard? I'm balding, I should shut up. Zane said that, but he still picked up the ores diligently. The ones he picked up didn't look very valuable. I guess he was trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. Zane, if you pick up too much, it'll be too heavy to carry them all. Don't worry, I'll find a way to carry them. What if monsters attack? How are you going to run away? I'll think about that when it happens, okay? Maybe I'll swing them around. Zane smiled brightly and put the ores in an empty sack, that hopeless guy. I stuck my tongue out at him and continued walking. As we followed the long path, we heard a strange sound. Scratch, scratch. It sounded like something was scraping the rocks. SHH. I signaled Zane and Troy to be quiet and moved carefully. When we finally turned the corner, we saw a bunch of moles gathered together. The moles, which were about the size of an adult male, were eating something in a line. It was the ores, but those guys, they're oddly cute. The mine rats were bad, but the moles looked pretty good in reality. I didn't feel anything in the game. Scratch, crunch. The moles finished their meal. Their eyes turned to us as a group. There were 4 of them. That was enough. Zane, Troy, I didn't have to step in. As I thought that, Troy leaped and Zane's arrow cut through the air. Thump, thud. They were monsters of the hidden dungeon, but they were easy enough for the 2 of them to kill. That was nothing, right? Yeah, good job. After we killed the moles, we saw a forked road. The problem was, wow, what is all this? The number of forked roads. There were more than 30 passages drilled in the huge wall. The moles must have dug them all and made them look like this. What are we going to do? Zane frowned. Yeah, what are we going to do? I had only cleared this hidden dungeon once, and that was thanks to the choices that helped me overcome the difficulties. I rubbed my neck and wondered. Sniff, sniff. Troy started sniffing. Master, this way. Of course, cats save the world. We followed the passage that Troy pointed to. It was big enough for 5 adults to enter, so we could pass easily. I smell something similar to the moles we smelled before, but more vicious. What? Then there are more monsters. The dwarves said we had to kill the monsters to get the top-grade magic stones, Zane. I know, but we could have gone a safer way. These guys, they are at it again. Calm down, Zane. Troy's nose is the only clue we have. I glared at Zane, my eyes spitting silent curses. The minor mole was a creature of incredible speed, rarely offering a chance to hit it with a burst of spiritual energy as I had just done. I'm sorry, Master. Zane, catching the meaning behind my gaze, rose to his feet and bowed his head. Sigh, it's all right. It's not like he fell on purpose. Don't be too harsh, my child. It wasn't intentional, right? Yes, so let's forgive him this once. I clenched my trembling hands tightly. Zane, be more careful. Your actions just cost us a perfect opportunity. Yes, Troy, well said. Zane, looking deflated, didn't retort this time. I'm sorry. It's okay. Everyone makes mistakes, don't worry about it. Even Troy, who had been scolding him, softened upon seeing Zane's disheartened look. They're both quite adorable. It's fine, we'll get another chance. Facing the minor mole, I gripped my mace with renewed strength. Then I said to the two of them, let's go. Pant, pant. You've worked hard, my child. I gasped for breath. That damned mole was disgustingly fast. Even for a hidden dungeon of easy difficulty, it would have been tough to clear without Troy. The mole, a master of escape, easily dodged my mace swings and Zane's arrows. After several misses, Troy's attack barely connected, but even that was a struggle. My spiritual energy release was also dodged as soon as the mole sensed it, making it an exhausting effort. Controlling the amount of spiritual energy was already challenging, and wasting it like this quickly drained me. Eventually, Troy, transformed into a black panther, managed to catch the mole. While he held the mole by its side in midair, I released my spiritual energy and finished it off. Hidden Quest Minor Mole Extermination complete. Minor Mole Extermination Hidden Quest rewards will be distributed. Creak as the system message appeared. Vibrations emanated from the boss room's floor. I immediately approached the center where the ground was splitting. What is this? Zane and Troy, who had been resting, came over as well. In the cracked floor, a small space revealed itself, shining with magic stones that brought a smile just by looking at them. 2 red magic stones and 1 white. Given the nature of magic stones to change color based on the stored mana, we had obtained 2 superior magic stones and 1 top-grade magic stone. Is this all? Zane sighed as if disappointed, but this was quite a haul. You saw earlier, the moles were munching on magic stones. Fortunately, the top-grade magic stone was left. I collected the magic stones with a smile. When we emerged from the hidden dungeon and returned to the dwarf village, the sun had already set. Brothers, we have returned. Holding my hungry stomach, I entered Kadu and Lufu's forge. Gasp, leader, you're back already. My goodness, are you hurt anywhere? The 2 dwarves rushed over in surprise. I'm fine, no need to worry. Despite my assurance, Kadu and Lufu circled around me, checking my condition themselves. Truly a relief. Who would have thought you'd return so quickly? The dwarves beamed with joy upon confirming my safety. I handed them the magic stones. Please use these to craft my artifact. Wow, these are in excellent condition. It's been ages since I've seen a top-grade magic stone. Don't worry, I'll create a masterpiece to remember. The grinning dwarves received the high-grade magic stones I had also handed over. Use these for Zane and Troy's equipment. Gasp. Master, Master, you don't have to do this. Zane looked at me with grateful eyes while Troy tried to dissuade me. No, it's better to have good equipment, so don't worry, Troy. Thank you, Master. Troy quickly accepted the gesture, and Zane looked at me with sparkling eyes. As expected of Master, I knew I could trust you. A lie. I had clearly seen Zane's envious gaze as I collected the magic stones in the mine earlier. Don't think about selling these for money. Now I leave it in your hands, brothers. Leave it to us. Don't worry, we'll craft it properly. Kadu and Lufu assured us that the equipment crafting would take about 2 days, so we should rest in the village in the meantime, and ushered us out of the forge. With nothing else to do, I guess I'll take a look around the village. Yawn. What to do with my time starting today? The plan to explore the village ended last night quite abruptly. Maybe I should visit Bahano since I have 2 days free. With that thought, I got out of bed. Since I had slept in, I was the only one left in the lodging. Look, there are the children. Where? Over there by the stall. Following Cairo's words, I peeked out the window and saw Zane, engrossed in taking notes while surveying a street vendor's wares. He seemed to be searching for information worth some money. And there was Troy, voraciously eating skewers at a nearby shop. The pile of empty skewers in front of him suggested he had devoured dozens already, eating so much meat first thing in the morning. With a nod of respect to the Black Panther's impressive appetite, I began preparing to step out. Having finished my preparations to visit Bahano, I had just left my lodging. I considered setting up a portal in my room, but it was too cramped, and there was no suitable space within the dwarf village. Besides, explaining it to the dwarves if they noticed would be a headache. Since I had some time to spare, I decided to take a leisurely stroll and enjoy the scenery on my way to Bahano. At that moment, clip-clop, clip-clop, the sound of a horse galloping reached my ears from the entrance of the dwarf village. Who could it be? Turning my head, an astonishing creature came into view. Good heavens! Oh, what is that? It wasn't just me. Even Kairos seemed surprised, his voice filled with excitement. Who do we have here if not Quirr? The dwarves, familiar with the creature, naturally struck up a conversation. The man with curly black hair had a bronzed, muscular torso on display. Behind him, the body of a horse extended. A centaur. I was speechless. To think I would encounter a centaur here. The centaur, looking around, spoke to a nearby dwarf, and I was taken aback. I've heard the leader of the Kairos faith is here. Why would a centaur be looking for me? As I stood bewildered by the unexpected visitor and his words, the centaur's gaze found me precisely. Standing tall among the short-statured dwarves, I was easily spotted, especially since Zane and Troy were nowhere to be seen. The centaur approached me. Clip-clop, clip-clop. I watched, dumbfounded, as the centaur drew near. To meet a centaur here of all places. It was a situation I had never anticipated. Even after countless iterations during my gameplay, I had never interacted with them. After all, centaurs were a race that greatly despised humans. Are you the leader of the Kairos faith? The centaur looked down at me, his gaze seemingly displeased. Ah, yes, that's correct. I answered cautiously, and his eyes softened. I've finally found you. Yes, why were you looking for me? I couldn't fathom why a centaur would seek me out. As I asked for clarification, he brushed his hair back and said, "Some time ago, a light enveloped all of Bahano. I need that light." Could he be referring to the time I used the large-scale purification light? Let me introduce myself first. I am Quirr. Ah, yes, I am Leviathan, the leader of the Kairos faith. But what do you mean you need that light? In the forest where I live, there is a flower of life, akin to the lifeblood of centaurs. That flower is currently dying. The centaur and the flower of life, the flower of life. Even as a top player in Wusabiep, this was a tale I had never heard before. However, the parts of Bahano touched by the light you released came back to life. Curious about this phenomenon, I investigated and learned that the light originated from the leader of the Kairos faith. That's why I've come to seek your help. A sudden quest appears. Sudden quest. Revive the flower of life description. The nature-loving centaurs. Please revive the flower of life they worship. Objective. Restore the centaur's flower of life success. The goodwill of the centaur race failure. Do you accept? Yes/no. A quest had suddenly emerged, and it was a sudden one at that. I calmed my startled heart and reviewed the quest details, then felt a surge of astonishment. Incredible. The reward was the goodwill of the centaur race. A race that loathed humans to the point of abhorrence. I can't possibly refuse this. I didn't know what benefits or dangers lay ahead, but without hesitation I accepted the quest. If I could convert these centaurs into followers, perhaps they would aid me someday. And for someone who thought they had experienced every route, the prospect of a new one was too enticing to pass up. The centaurs are a race skilled in magic, and they are incredibly beautiful. Kairos seemed just as excited as I was. Indeed. I had never encountered centaurs in Wusabiep, but I knew they were a remarkable race. Though few in number and disdainful of humans, they were said to be adept in magic. But to become involved with centaurs like this, during the original gameplay, I knew there was a dwarf village nearby, but I had only visited the hidden dungeon, never the village itself. After all, the dwarf village wasn't accessible from the game's launch. Hence, I had never interacted with the centaurs, especially since the rewards for the dwarf subquests had changed after I arrived in this world. It seemed right to assume that one could only interact with them through a hidden route. The centaur's flower of life. Could the flower which was dying have been revived even partially by the large-scale purification? Has the flower of life suffered from magic? I couldn't make sense of it. The original game barely mentioned centaurs, let alone the existence of the flower of life. I accepted the quest, tempted by the goodwill of the centaurs, but a significant problem remained: how to heal the flower of life. Can a flower even suffer from magic? If not, what should I do? Child, the essence of holy power comes from life force. Even without using the power of healing, holy power has a faint ability to heal living beings, though it's not as strong as the power of healing. I see. The power of purification ultimately stems from holy power. It's like the root from which the fruits of purification and healing grow. From what I had seen in Wusabiep, the power of healing was something only a select few within the Kairos faith could wield, and only those with abundant holy power. So the power of healing was a force that could bloom from a vast reservoir of holy power. In this case, you became a conduit for the power of purification, so your holy power, which contains healing abilities, combined to heal the flower, even if it wasn't magic. Yes, the power of purification extended from you. Now I understand. The healing power within me had mingled and healed the flower. That's why the injured in Bahano weren't in such dire condition. With my doubts cleared, confidence surged within me that I could heal the flower. I will help you, I said to Quirr, smiling. Thank you. Quirr seemed to be waiting for my response, a hint of relief in his voice as he answered. A slight smile graced his lips. Even a centaur can be handsome, such a beautiful race. I'm quite taken with them. Even Kairos was completely charmed. Master, leader. Out of nowhere, Zane and Troy appeared. They had been somewhere out of sight and now made their way through the dwarves to reach me. Is this a centaur? Zane whispered to me. I nodded and briefly explained what had just happened. So I've decided to help the centaur. Ah, I see, the flower of life. I've never heard of it before. I have. It was unexpected. Troy knew about the flower of life. Well, it made sense, considering both the Black Panther and the horse are animal-type beings. They might share the same legends. To think we'll visit the centaur's forest, I'm excited. Zane's eyes sparkled with anticipation. The centaur race, shrouded in mystery, seemed to intrigue him greatly. I'm looking forward to it too. Troy's eyes also shone with excitement. It's not possible. A firm voice from the centaur followed. Only the high priest of Kairos may enter our forest. With the flower of life in peril, we cannot bring in others of different races. Quirr's response was understandable. One wouldn't bring a doctor's acquaintances to a family member's sick. I felt it was a bit much to argue given our request, but there was no need to start trouble here. Ah, I see. That was thoughtless of me. I'm sorry, I didn't consider the situation. Instead of burdening Quirr with unnecessary talk, I comforted the disheartened Zane and Troy. I'll tell you all about it when we return, so cheer up. It was something even I couldn't help. Fortunately, their expressions brightened quickly. Then let's depart immediately. Quirr turned around. Mount up, Leviathan. Troy's figure overlapped with Quirr's in my vision. I climbed onto the horse. Hold onto my shoulders so you don't fall. It was oddly embarrassing but necessary to avoid injury. As I held onto Quirr's shoulders, he began to move. Clip-clop, clip-clop. His swift pace quickly took us out of the dwarf village. Wow, he's really fast. Troy was fast, but Quirr's speed seemed to match, if not surpass, his. Quirr, I called out to him cautiously as the scenery whizzed by. Quirr's voice, calm and unlabored, answered me. What is it? Why is the flower of life dying? I was curious about the fundamental reason. Was it because of the curse or something else? Our flower of life is a very noble being. It has stood guard here long before we were born, nurturing the forest from the same spot for ages. Quirr continued his tale without a tremor. I listened intently. From this point on, I had no knowledge whatsoever. A flower with such a powerful life force only dies when a great crisis befalls the world, and only a very grave crisis at that. A crisis. Does the flower predict them? Yes, the flower of life is unlike any ordinary flower. Since when? About half a year ago. It seemed like it foresaw the catastrophe that almost befell Bahano. Forbidden magic had spread to the empire, nearly causing countless casualties. Fortunately, I had prevented the disaster, but that was just a few weeks ago. If the flower had been dying for half a year, it couldn't recover on its own. Even if the crisis was averted, it would still be dying. We've arrived. Lost in thought, I was brought back by Quirr's words. Turning in the direction he was looking, a small forest came into view. I looked around. The centaur's forest was quite close to Bahano. It was a distance that could be covered on foot in a matter of minutes. So close, the light of purification must have reached it. But isn't this too close? I heard centaurs despised humans, yet their forest lay so near the human kingdom, close enough for the unaware to wander in. I can't make sense of it. Meanwhile, Quirr, carrying me on his back, took a few more steps and stopped in front of a massive tree. Wondering what was happening, I watched as he began to murmur in an incomprehensible language. A portal-like shimmer appeared in the tree. Then Quirr headed towards it. A sudden intense light poured down, and I instinctively closed my eyes. This is our centaur forest. As I opened my eyes at Quirr's words, wow! I couldn't help but exclaim, incredible, it's so beautiful. Such beautiful creatures living in such a beautiful place. You can say that again. I responded to Kairos as I slowly took in my surroundings. It was as if I had stepped into another dimension, a sight foreign to my eyes. Unlike any forest I had seen in this world, this place felt sacred. The sanctuary of the centaurs, perhaps. The entire forest was shrouded in a blue mist, but it wasn't a frightening atmosphere. Giant trees grew densely, and small, firefly-like beings flitted around them. It wasn't just that. For the first time in my life, I saw mysterious flowers and fruits, butterflies that glowed on their own, and blue squirrels. It truly felt like I had stepped into a forest out of a fairy tale. How beautiful, I marveled. Isn't it? Our homeland is always a sight to behold, my companion agreed. But I'm sure this was a different forest before. Did we just teleport? I asked, wondering if the centaur, skilled in magic, could have performed such a high-level spell. Quirr shook his head. No, that's not it. Strictly speaking, we've hidden our forest within the Bahano forest. It keeps humans from entering. Ah, because of the Bahano kingdom, but why settle here? If they disliked humans, they could live far away from them. From the beginning, this was our territory. To be precise, humans started settling in our home, so we concealed our forest to protect it. So the centaurs had been living here even before the Bahano kingdom existed, an incredibly ancient race. As I looked around, I realized Quirr's pace had slowed. Aren't you running anymore? Do you want to? No, it's just that since entering the forest, your steps have slowed. I feel embarrassed to keep riding. Outside the forest, there are human eyes. We speed up to avoid their gaze. If you're comfortable, you can continue to ride. All right then. Good. Riding Quirr and taking in the surroundings was more comfortable than walking, as I admired the beautiful forest. Master. Abel's communication came through suddenly. Is something wrong? I was about to respond when I remembered Quirr was with me, so I spoke in my mind. What's the matter? I could communicate telepathically, but I usually spoke out loud. I didn't want to increase the number of people I talked to telepathically with except for Kairos. It was too chaotic. Where are you? Near Bahano. Why? Is something wrong? No, you contacted me even though there's nothing wrong. Yes. Abel's cheerful response left me dumbfounded. This kid was more troublesome than I thought. I just missed you, Master. He looked fine, but his actions were more childish than actual children. All right, I'll be in Aldone soon, so hang in there. I couldn't be harsh to someone who missed me, so I replied calmly. Understood. Fortunately, the communication ended quickly. What a peculiar fellow. Alpheus, Chester, Sasha, they didn't contact me unless it was important. Was Abel the odd one out? Isn't he adorable? Ah, yes. Well, it seems so. It wasn't too bad, almost like family checking in. I smiled faintly and lifted my head. Before me stood about a dozen centaurs, and behind them a flower of immense size bloomed. Wow. They expect me to heal that, somewhere in the main building of the Diego Church. Tertius walked alone down a dark corridor, his eyes sadder than usual as he headed deeper into the building. He stopped in front of a massive iron door, a place even the apostles of Diego's school could not enter, except for Tertius. He placed his hand on the door, infusing it with his power. Black energy flowed out, enveloping the door. With a clank, the door opened, but Tertius hesitated to enter immediately. He stood there for a moment, then, with resolve, stepped inside. The room was small, but it contained a single glass coffin. Ivan. Inside lay a 10-year-old boy with black hair like Tertius. Tertius knelt before the glass, reaching out towards the boy's face. All he touched was the cold glass. Ivan. He whispered his brother's name softly, but Ivan did not stir. He was breathing, but that was all. Stricken with an unknown illness, Ivan barely clung to life inside the glass coffin. A thin black mist swirled. Inside, only the power of Diego kept Ivan tethered to this world. I'm sorry. Tertius whispered to his brother, unable to help him. His eyes began to moisten. And at that moment, in a far-off dimension, in a world shrouded in darkness, only one creature existed. A massive serpent, coiled and watching Tertius' image on a screen, laughed with satisfaction. You cannot escape me, Tertius. The serpent's tongue flicked across its mouth. In this cursed world, you must be my protagonist. Watching Tertius' tears, the evil god Diego laughed out loud. Forever. Isn't this too much? A flower, they said. I denied the reality before me. But no matter how much I denied it, reality remained unchanged. Behind the dozen centaurs was a flower larger than a tree. A black flower as massive as a 5-story building. Judging by the petals, it must indeed be a real flower. The flower the centaurs gazed upon stood out even in a forest filled with towering trees. Its stem alone was 10 meters tall, with wide petals fully bloomed above. I laughed in disbelief. Ha ha ha. How am I supposed to heal this? The colossal flower seemed to wither as Quirr had said. Its entirety was wilting. Fortunately, it's still alive. I examined the flower. Even with the petals in full bloom, I couldn't identify its species. It seemed like a flower I was seeing for the first time. Then a small part of a petal that had sprouted towards Bahano's direction caught my eye. It was slightly white. Quirr, is that the part touched by the light? Yes. How fascinating. Even in the forest concealed by the magic of the centaurs, the light that began in Bahano reached here. It's the same space, but perhaps it's because the place is conceptually hidden. Moreover, it was astonishing that Bahano's light had reached it. The large-scale purification used at the time was meant to cleanse the entire kingdom of Bahano. If the light was of such magnitude, the size of the light from the purification I had seen before was considerable, so the kingdom's purification would have been even larger. I was at the center of it, so I don't know exactly what difference there was on the outside, but that means the fringes of the light must have reached this forest. Well, it's not certain. As I was lost in thought looking at the flower, I suddenly felt a gaze. All the centaurs were looking at me. Oh, right, I haven't introduced myself. I am Leviathan, the leader of the Kairos church. As I greeted them with a smile, the centaurs hesitated. They are all worried about the flower of life. Oh, it's okay. After all, I knew well that centaurs despised humans. I replied to Quirr and was about to turn my gaze back to the flower when one of the centaurs approached me. The flower of life is the source of our forest. and in a way, our own origin. Please take good care of it." Although I didn't like that he didn't introduce himself as I had done, his polite request softened my heart. "I'll do my best. I'm not sure if it will work, though." As I spoke of my effort, the stern expressions of the centaurs eased a bit. I took a deep breath and slowly approached the flower of life. Then I placed my hand on its thick stem. Using a healing potion might be better than this. Even if I poured all the healing potions I had, it seemed difficult to treat something of this size. Besides, I didn't know when the potion would be absorbed, and touching it directly would be faster than using a potion. "My little lamb, be strong." "Yes, Lord Kairos." I steeled myself and used my healing skill. A pure white light escaped from my body and wrapped around part of the stem. "Please, please be healed," but nothing happened. Is this for real? I was certain my healing skill could be used on living beings, so naturally I thought it would work. However, the flower in front of me remained blackened. Why? Can't my power save it? Confusion set in as my healing skill had no effect. "My little bird," then Kairos called me gently. "This child has a different method of healing than humans. Do you know about this flower?" I came to know through the energy I felt. "To heal this child, you must infuse it with holy power itself." Not a healing skill, but holy power itself. Remembering Kairos' words, I closed my eyes. With the desire to heal this being, I infused my holy power into it. I could feel the holy power slowly draining from my entire body. "I hope this power heals you. I don't know exactly what kind of flower you are or what role you play, but this beautiful forest and the centaurs wish for your health." It was at that moment. Gasp! I opened my eyes wide. The holy power was flowing out faster than I had anticipated, as if the flower of life was sucking in my holy power. What in the world? I tried to pull my hand away in a panic, but it wouldn't come off, as if it was stuck to the stem. What is this? Even amidst the growing confusion, the holy power continued to be drained. The part of the stem where my hand touched began to regain its green hue. I could see that it was being healed, but this was too much, wasn't it? As the holy power was rapidly drained, my head spun. My vision even started to blur. Lord Kairos, save me. But there was no answer from Kairos. What I heard instead was, "Thank you." It was a man's voice I had never heard before. "Sudden quest revive the flower of life cleared. Revive the flower of life, your reward for the sudden quest will be granted." Through my blurred vision, I briefly saw the quest window, but the next moment I lost consciousness. Heave. I took a deep breath and opened my eyes wide. What I saw was the night sky, filled with countless stars. What in the world? I steadied my breath and recalled my last memory. That is, I had treated the flower of life at the request of the centaurs, and lost consciousness as the holy power was drawn out of me like crazy. "You're awake." As soon as I recalled my last memory, Quir's face suddenly appeared. "Quir, you had fainted, High Priest." I knew that without being told. I looked up at him and slowly sat up. I felt surprisingly refreshed for someone who had been lying on the grass. "It seemed your body was not in good health, so I gave you a special centaur stamina potion." "Is that so? Thank you." The centaurs were skilled not only in magic but also in alchemy. "By the way, what happened to the flower of life?" I asked, my concern evident. During the treatment, I had lost consciousness, leaving me clueless about the fate of the flower. Yet, considering it had drained nearly all of my sacred power, I hoped it had recovered at least halfway. "See for yourself," Quir urged, stepping aside to reveal the flower of life before me. Wow! Despite having all my holy power siphoned off by that damned thing, I couldn't help but marvel at it. In the midst of the beautiful forest stood something even more magnificent. It would suit Kairos perfectly. The previously pitch-black appearance was gone. The thick stem and leaves were now brimming with life, a vibrant green, and the blossoming white petals at the end looked as if they were crafted by a deity. This is truly... I found myself drawn towards the flower of life, walking as if under a spell. Fireflies and glowing butterflies swirled around the colossal bloom, creating a scene that would have startled Zane. It's not just beautiful, it's miraculous. I had always considered myself a veteran of the game, knowing everything about this world. But this sight made me realize I was wrong. The game I knew was just that, a game. This was the world where I truly lived, and it was vast and wondrous. The sight before me, unlike anything I had seen through the game screen, stirred emotions within me. "You're awake, my child." It was at that moment that a familiar voice reached my ears. My head instinctively turned towards the sound. "Are you feeling all right?" Startled, I blinked. There in front of me stood Kairos, manifested in the form of a puppy. "Kairos, when did you manifest? And is it really all right for you to reveal yourself like this? I may have weakened, but I am still a god, my child. Is there any reason I shouldn't?" He had a point. There was no reason Kairos couldn't manifest. Why was I worried? Subconsciously, I must have thought it dangerous for others to see Kairos in his manifested form. No, that's not it. I belatedly remembered the real reason. In my confusion, I had forgotten the threat of an attack from the Diego Church. If they learned of a god's manifestation, they would surely come after us. Therefore, it was best for Kairos to manifest only in front of the higher-ups, though he had already shown himself to the centaurs. Sigh, still, we should be cautious, Kairos. If the Diego Church learns of this, they might attack us. It's a well-known secret that they deal with powerful religious factions. I spoke softly, ensuring only Kairos could hear. You make a valid point. We should be careful for now. But for the moment, we are safe." Kairos proclaimed confidently, puffing out his chest. I wondered what made him so sure. Could there be members of the Diego Church among the centaurs? These creatures despise humans, so perhaps we are safe. As I pondered this, I noticed the smiles on the centaurs' faces. The atmosphere had changed drastically since before the flower of life was healed. Then I remembered the system window I had seen just before fainting. Completing the quest had earned the goodwill of the centaurs. For now, at least, we were safe. "You've regained consciousness." At that moment, a fascinating being appeared before me. It resembled a fairy no larger than the palm of my hand, with green hair and eyes, looking like a teenager. No, in this world it would be a spirit. "Greetings, I am Phineas, the spirit of life." I knew spirits existed in the original work, but I had never seen one. They were even rarer than centaurs. Yes, it's a pleasure to meet you. I am Leviathan." Following the centaurs had been a wise decision. To think I would meet a spirit as well, and such a tiny creature was truly adorable. "We've met before. We encountered each other before you lost consciousness." When did I meet a spirit? This adorable being was new to me. "My child." Kairos floated up and pointed with his short paw at the flower of life. "That flower is Phineas." Of course, spirits are born from nature." "Is that so? But Kairos, do you know this spirit?" I asked, sensing familiarity in his tone. Kairos immediately shook his head. "No, this is our first meeting, really. However, its roots come from me, so there's a sense of kinship." "That's right. My survival is all thanks to Kairos' power." Connected by sacred power, they had grown close. "I thank you both once again." Phineas fluttered its tiny wings and stepped back, bowing respectfully to Kairos and me. And it wasn't just Phineas. The centaurs gathered behind the spirit and knelt before us. "Thank you, Kairos." "We are grateful, High Priest." There was a distinction in the way they addressed a god and a human, but the centaur's goodwill made it hard to feel bad. "My little bird has simply done what was natural for beauty." Kairos, seemingly elated, hopped around among the centaurs. The sight of a puppy frolicking among the giant creatures was quite endearing, and it seemed the centaurs were charmed by his cuteness as well. Life sparkled in their eyes. Now that I've gained their favor, it would be perfect to convert them into followers. Is there a way? As I mulled over this, Phineas approached and spoke. "I've heard you're the first apostle serving Lord Kairos," they said. Had they heard the story from Kairos while I was unconscious? I nodded to Finney's question and replied, "Yes, that's correct. To be precise, I hold the position of High Priest in the Church of Kairos." "I see." Finney smiled serenely. The petite spirit clasped her hands together as if in prayer and continued, "We, too, have decided to follow Lord Kairos." Did Finney's mean she had become a follower? But who did she mean by we? "The centaurs and I have chosen to serve Lord Kairos, so please take good care of us, High Priest." Finney's eyes curved beautifully. In other words, there was no need to make the centaurs into followers. A smile formed on my face without me realizing it. "Should you need our assistance, please call upon us at any time." Then Finney's extended something towards me. A leaf, as large as Finney's herself, appeared out of thin air. "What is this?" As I muttered, holding the mysterious leaf, Finney's answered with a smile. "When you need me or the centaurs, infuse your power into this leaf and your will shall reach me." So, this leaf had the same effect as the flute Tertian once gave me. Will it work even over great distances? Yes. This leaf is connected to me, so your call will reach me wherever you are. If the magic of the spirits and centaurs allowed it, perhaps it was indeed possible. Thank you, Phineas. To think I had not only made the centaurs into followers, but also befriended a spirit. I felt an indescribable sense of pride at this achievement. The next morning, with Quir's help, I left the forest of the centaurs. It had been too late to leave the sanctuary yesterday, so I spent the night in the forest. Now, I had conversed with the centaurs, now my followers, and watched Phineas and Kairos play joyfully. I had slept in a bed made by the centaurs, not an ordinary bed. Though made of flowers and grass, it was as plush and comfortable as a royal bed in a palace, allowing me a deep sleep. I'm truly grateful, High Priest. Upon reaching the outskirts of the dwarf village, Quir set me down and bowed. "Please, no more thanks. You've already expressed your gratitude plenty." I had heard it several times already, so it was time to stop. Then Quir extended his hand to me as if asking for a handshake. "All right. Then I shall always support you." "Me too." After our handshake, Quir turned and ran back to their territory. That was a short but fun adventure. For me too, it was a truly mystical and beautiful place. Let's go again sometime. After a brief exchange with Kairos, I entered the dwarf village. It was late morning and the village was bustling with activity. "Master, you've returned. Leader, you've finally arrived." Zane and Troy, who were eating skewers nearby, spotted me and rushed over. "I'm back. How was the forest of the centaurs?" "I'm curious." These guys seemed more interested in the centaur's forest than in my well-being. "Let's eat something first, then talk." I had filled up on fruits given by the centaurs in the forest, but it wasn't enough. The skewers they were holding looked tempting. "Why don't you eat this while you tell us?" The quick-witted Zane handed me a fresh skewer. Persistent, aren't they? But since I accepted the skewer, I owed them the story. I sat down with the two on a nearby bench. First, I took a bite of the skewer. The well-marinated chicken was delicious, the seasoning permeating with every bite. "Master, start with the story." Troy seemed to be turning into someone like Zane. Were these guys becoming friends through their constant bickering? I chewed the meat quickly and began. "The forest of the centaurs is close to Bahano." I slowly recounted my experiences in the centaur's forest to them. Their expressions changed with every detail. How adorable. That afternoon, as the sun began to set, Kadu and Lufu summoned us to the forge. "You've arrived. Come in." "This way, please." Kadu and Lufu looked exceptionally pleased. They must have created equipment they were proud of. I'm quite excited about this. I licked my lips and stepped inside. Zane and Troy's eyes were filled with anticipation, just like mine. "Ahem." Kadu cleared his throat, drawing our attention. Kadu and Lufu, the two dwarves, stood on either side of a broad wooden table, looking at us. On the table between them lay the equipment. Even at a glance, the bow, the armor, and the necklace were extraordinary. "Wow, this is incredible." Zane and Troy approached as if enchanted, reaching out for their respective equipment. But then, Slap, Kadu and Lufu's hand stopped them. Let's calm down first. We'll hand them over in order. I wondered why they couldn't just take their items, but since the dwarves had made them, we followed their method. Fortunately, Zane and Troy quietly accepted the dwarves' instructions. First for Zane. Zane was the first to be called. His face lit up noticeably. Stepping forward, Kadu handed him the bow. Wow, this is really my bow. It must be expensive, right? Zane exclaimed in awe as he received the bow. The bow, entirely white, looked incredibly noble, and at its center a red magic stone was embedded. They've embedded a high-grade magic stone. After all, it's more efficient to use a magic stone as is than to process it. Next up, Troy. As Troy stepped forward, Lufu handed him a set of armor. Troy's armor, black as night, covered his shoulders and chest with a red magic stone embedded in its center. Thank you. I've only done what was necessary. While Troy offered Lufu a brief word of thanks, Kadu approached me. Lastly, leader. Heeding Kadu's call, I stepped forward and he presented me with a necklace. Encased within the necklace was a pure white magic stone, shielded by a clear gem. It was light, barely heavier than 2 of my fingers. The use of the magic stone is simple. Just infuse it with your own magical power. Our power is divine, but the principles of mana and divinity are the same, so using the magic stone posed no issue. Indeed, many priests in the order wield artifacts through their divine power, but this meant Troy would need divine power too. Kairos, could you bestow some divine power upon Troy soon? Of course. For that faithful child, I would share it this instant. Thank you. Kairos answered without hesitation. Troy's actions thus far must have pleased him as well. This will make Troy even stronger. Nodding at this favorable progress, I overheard Zane conversing with Kadu and Lufu. Zane's bow will grow stronger with power infused. Thank you, Kadu, Lufu. Zane embraced the 2 dwarves with a bright smile. Then Lufu explained Troy's armor. Troy's armor won't break easily. Plus, it'll adjust its size to fit when he transforms into a Black Panther. Oh, thank you, that's very convenient. Kadu then pointed to my necklace. Leader, try on the necklace and infuse it with power. Yes, brother, I did as Kadu suggested, donning the necklace. As I gathered divine power, a soft light spread rapidly from the necklace. Whoosh, the light flowed out, enveloping me in a protective circle of white, like a shield. The necklace is called Barrier of Protection, made with the finest magic stone. It will guard you in any situation. As Kadu named the necklace, a message appeared. You have acquired Barrier of Protection. Barrier of Protection grade, legendary item description. Crafted by 2 exceptionally skilled dwarves, this item combines a top-grade magic stone to create a powerful protective shield for the user. A legendary item. Though I possessed relics, they were divine gifts from Kairos. Until now, I had no notable equipment. But with the dwarves' craftsmanship and the superior magic stone, a legendary item was born. I'm truly grateful, brothers. Like Zane, I embraced the dwarves warmly. With this, I needn't worry for a while. No, I won't likely die anytime soon. My lips refused to stop smiling. I thanked the dwarves again and again. After repeated thanks by Zane and Troy, the dwarves showed signs of weariness. Only then did we leave the forge. Our business in the dwarf village was complete. We bid farewell to the dwarves we'd grown close to and rode on Troy, now transformed into a Black Panther, straight to Bahano's palace. Arriving at the palace bedroom, night had already fallen. After telling Zane and Troy to rest, I pondered whether to do the same. With nothing pressing to attend to, I decided to head to the Aldone Temple. Oh, the children have been busy, I see. The temple had undergone significant changes since I left it in Aldone's care. The former high priest's chamber was now neatly arranged as my office, designed to my preference, much like Roval's. The children have done well. Abel and Jacob too. Indeed, they are my children. Leaving the office, I noticed the corridor was much cleaner than before. The beige tones lent the interior a sacred yet cozy feel. Descending the stairs to the first floor, I saw the garden. Sasha's unmistakable sculptures adorned the space. Classic Sasha. Without needing my direction, she had done a perfect job. Clean and stylish, a flawless talent, that's when it happened. "Ah, master." As I quietly headed to the garden, a cheerful voice called out. Turning, I saw Abel running towards me with a bright smile. Must he always run? "Abel, be careful or you'll fall." Abel was sprinting down the corridor at full speed. "Are you worried about me?" He stopped abruptly just before colliding with me as if to prove his innocence with his overly pure gaze. I nodded in response. "Well, yes, typical master." Abel beamed at me. "But when did you arrive? And if you were coming, you should have told me. Shall I ask Jacob to cook something right now?" Abel then proceeded to talk non-stop. Somehow he reminded me of a large, tail-wagging dog. It was a bit bothersome, but not unwelcome. "Abel, calm down. There's no need to ask Jacob to cook. It's too late and he needs to rest too. But you must be hungry." "I appreciate the thought, but I'm fine." I declined Abel's offer and continued down the corridor, checking if any areas still needed cleaning. "Ah, the cleaning of Aldone Temple is complete." "Is that so?" "Yes. Sasha is currently sculpting a statue of Kairos in the prayer room. It should be finished in a few days." "All right. I understand." Then there was no need to tour the temple right now. I'm starting to feel tired anyway. I plan to return to Bahano to rest and come back tomorrow. Heading straight for the office to use the portal, Abel, seemingly tireless, kept following me. "Abel, how far will you follow me?" I had to stop in front of the office and ask. He looked as if he still had something important to say. Abel then smiled brightly and said, "I want to accompany you, master." Abel's innocent laughter caught me off guard. "You want to accompany me?" I mused. No child had ever made such a request before, and it intrigued me. "Why do you wish to accompany me?" I asked, curious about his fundamental reason. "Because I like you, master," Abel replied without hesitation. "Abel, what am I to do with you?" While the other children have shown me affection, Abel felt like a fan of mine. At least that's how it seemed to me. "Thank you, I appreciate it, but I can't always have you by my side, Abel." "Why not?" His shoulders slumped, yet he asked with a glimmer of hope. Was he truly unaware? "The Bahano temple will soon be completed. As I've mentioned before, you must take charge of it, Abel. The followers there need someone to care for them." "But..." He seemed to want to say more, but finding no sharp retort, he eventually fell silent. "Of course, I don't expect you to tend to the temple every day. There are times when I need you all, and I don't intend to only give orders." "Really?" "Yes, and as our congregation grows, so will the number of those wishing to become priests of Kairos. Once the high priest can leave without the temple falling into disarray, then you're free to follow me as much as you like." At that, Abel grabbed my hand and jumped for joy. Despite being larger than me, he was as delighted as a child. "Yes, I understand, High Priest." He's like a giant puppy. Some time later, the remodeling of the Bahano temple was complete. Upon hearing the news from a servant, I, along with Zane and Troy, immediately headed to the temple. "Wow, it's unrecognizable. Remarkable. Money does wonders." Zane, Troy, and I stood in a line, marveling at the transformation. Having known the temple's former state during the days of the Rise's faith, we were all the more astonished. What pleased me most was its accessibility. Arhin must have taken my request to heart, for the temple stood out even from afar. The buildings that once obscured the temple were gone, and the pathway had been widened. It could now accommodate hundreds in its garden alone. His Majesty has purchased all the buildings nearby, apparently to widen the entrance, Zane commented. I nodded in agreement. I would have to express my gratitude to Arhin separately. "Let's go inside." Together, we entered the Bahano temple. Passing through the spacious pathway and the ornate entrance, a beautiful garden unfolded before us. The temple's garden was as meticulously maintained as a royal palace's. Though winter meant no vibrant flowers, spring would surely bring life back to this place. I only commissioned the exterior remodeling, but they've taken care of the garden too. There was even a fountain in the center of the garden, something I had long desired. I'm quite pleased with it, my child, me too. All that remained was to fill the empty spaces throughout the garden with Sasha's sculptures. Chessie. Just as I thought this, Chester appeared from afar, carrying one of Sasha's statues, a deer sculpture brimming with vitality. Master, you've arrived. Chester greeted me with a gentle smile and placed the statue in the empty garden space. The ground thumped softly. You've worked hard. He, not at all. Chester grinned innocently and hurried back into the building. The chapel, visible beyond the garden, had transformed into a sight as beautiful as a palace, and it seemed slightly larger than before. The children, Abel, and even Jacob were busily transporting Sasha's statues. Jacob, not there here. Sasha sharply directed them, even putting Jacob to work. Is this the spot, Sasha? Yes. I noticed that the children, Abel and Jacob, regardless of age, spoke to each other with casual familiarity. Are they all children of Kairos, What about it? They all use informal speech. Yes. External age isn't of much importance. They are all my children, I see. It might be a surprising scene to others, but it was fine. I approached Sasha with a smile. Sasha, your works are beautiful as always. You've done well. Thank you. Sasha looked at me intently before nodding. By the way, the statue of Kairos for the prayer room isn't finished yet, is it? Working on both Aldone and Bahano's statues simultaneously has taken a bit longer. I apologize, Master. Sasha's rapid and lengthy response was unusual, but it ended with an apology, which didn't sit well with me. No need to rush, Sasha. Take your time and don't feel pressured, all right? I gently stroked Sasha's hair and smiled. Sasha nodded in response. Okay. Just then I felt a piercing gaze from the side. It was Zane. Master, could you not treat me with half the warmth you show the children? He crossed his arms and tilted his posture, challenging me. Would you be warm to someone who looks like you do now? What's wrong with how I look? Zane, stand up straight like me. Troy, who had been watching, corrected Zane's posture. That's better. Unable to resist Troy's strength, Zane's posture became awkward. I laughed and his brow furrowed. Ugh, this is really annoying. He grumbled. Let's not dawdle and head inside. The temple's grand opening was imminent and I was determined to finish cleaning today. Entering the temple with my two companions, we each headed to our pre-assigned areas. I, carrying cleaning supplies, made a beeline for the high priest's office. It doesn't seem to need much cleaning. As I stepped into the high priest's office, Kairos exclaimed in admiration. I felt the same. I had only heard that the children had cleared out the useless trinkets from the old high priest's office, but the interior was even tidier than expected. It was arranged with the soft interior decor I favored, much like Roval and Aldone's high priest's office. Approaching the spacious executive desk, I found a note left on top. Rest well, Master. Abel had already taken care of the cleaning. How thoughtful. That's quite adorable. With a smile, I moved on. No need to clean here, so I should do something else instead. The high priest's office wasn't just an office. It had several other spaces. The high priest of Bahano must have been quite greedy, as it was larger than Roval and Aldone's. The bedroom was spacious, and there was even a separate dressing room. The space originally meant for blessings was large enough to install a portal. I had brought the portal from Bahano's villa and installed it here in the high priest's office. In front of it was the blessing that Kairos had previously created. Everything seems in order, perhaps I should clean elsewhere. Just as I was about to grab the cleaning tools, a communication came through. High priest, it was Alpheus. What's the matter, Alphi? Your brother has come to visit. Sevenus. Yes. He stopped by Roval to pick up some items and your brother happened to visit. Sevenus visiting without notice. What could it be? I immediately took the portal to Roval. After changing into my priestly robes in the high priest's office, I removed my glasses. Greeting the occasional followers I encountered, I stepped out of the building to find Alpheus and Sevenus waiting. Brother, Sevenus, mounted on a white horse, dismounted as soon as he saw me. The knights lined up behind him also dismounted and stood at attention. Levi, have you been well? Ah, yes, I've been fine, but what brings you here so suddenly? His unexpected visit puzzled me, and as I inquired, Sevenus smiled faintly. Behind him, knights approached carrying heavy boxes. Your birthday is coming up soon. I've brought gifts. Ah, my birthday. It was still a while away, but could these all really be my birthday gifts? The knights began stacking about 10 hefty boxes before me. The first 2 boxes contain clothes sent by Mother. They're creations by Pedro, who designed your last ceremonial robe. Pedro's clothes in boxes. Before I could marvel, Sevenus continued explaining calmly, and this is my gift to you. He opened a smaller box, revealing a trove of jewels inside. Insane. How much is all this worth? And these boxes contain. Each of the other boxes was also filled with items meant for me, and the last 2 boxes pointed out by Sevenus were brimming with gold coins. This is a donation for the temple. My goodness, I was astonished. Such generosity from this man. As I admired the Holden family's open-handed wealth, Alpheus and Chester, who had arrived unnoticed, approached. We'll take care of moving the belongings, Brother Reveloff. Ah, yes, thank you. I smiled at the 2 of them, and Alpheus stepped forward to express his gratitude to Sevenus. We will use the donation carefully. Thank you. Sevenus merely nodded. In response to Alpheus' thanks, the children, unfazed by his reaction, began methodically moving the stacked boxes. My boy, your brother seems different today. Cairo's words made me belatedly realize that Sevenus' attire was unusual. I had seen Sevenus in uniform before. At the mansion, he sometimes wore a simple shirt and trousers, but I had never seen him dressed in armor, ready for a campaign like today. Brother, are you heading out on a campaign today? I was puzzled, having heard no such news. It wasn't yet time for the wars across the continent. Yes, I'm off to Sershin. Sevenus spoke in his usual even tone. Sershin. I had heard of it, but what was it? If I had forgotten, it couldn't have been that important. However, a few days ago, a rift opened in Sershin. Monsters have emerged and they need support, so I'm departing. This is bad. Only then did I remember my mistake. I had forgotten about Sershin because, when playing the game Wusabiup, the story unfolds from the perspective of Tertius. As the game transitions from the early story to the mid-game, players can overhear a rumor from the NPCs. Did you hear? The heir of Holden who went to close the rift in Sershin came back crippled. Now he's gone mad. That was about Sevenus Holden, the sole heir of the Holden family, so that means. This was precisely that moment. I tried to calm my heart. Then cautiously I asked Sevenus, Brother, is it absolutely necessary for you to go on this mission? I was even suggesting seeking help from other territories, but Sevenus was resolute. Of course. His unwavering gaze bore into me. Sershin is quite close to our own territory, however, it's distant from the other regions. While Sershin might request aid from other territories, there's nowhere faster than us to reach Sershin. Sevenus' expression remained stoic, but his eyes sparkled more than ever. If we don't assist them promptly, the damage in Sershin could be catastrophic. We might even risk harm reaching Holden. His words were irrefutable. I bit my lip. By the gods, I almost forgot about Sershin. While I had played the game from Tertius' perspective, I knew little about Reveloff Holden's life. Our eyes met. Sevenus' gaze, emotionless yet always concerned for his younger brother. Even though he was an NPC in the game, I didn't want to witness him losing his sanity. But Sevenus had already completed preparations, including the farewell ceremony with the knights. Holding him back was impossible. It seemed he sensed my turmoil too. Levi, are you worried? Yes, of course I was worried. After all, he was family. Don't fret, Levi, have you forgotten who I am? Sevenus patted my shoulder as if reassuring me, then smiled and continued. I'll return safely. Damn, he even added that cliched line like a flag signaling impending doom. With those words, Sevenus' bad ending was all but confirmed. Since arriving in Roval, I'd sensed an unsettling energy, but now a rift had opened nearby. Meanwhile, Cairo seemed to have noticed the rift's existence. Lost in thought, I pondered. Surshan was a small territory, slightly removed from Holden's domain, governed by Surshan's lord. Given its size, Surshan had fewer knights to defend it compared to Holden. To make matters worse, the vicinity of Surshan was plagued by frequent monster attacks due to a nearby mountain range. And of course, it was during one of these monster surges that the rift had opened, further depleting Surshan's already scarce knight numbers. Predicting monster attacks was possible, but rifts were true disasters. Their occurrence depended on the whims of the gods, making them unpredictable. Of course, they couldn't have prepared extra knights in advance for the rift. Surshan had requested reinforcements from the nearest Holden once the rift appeared. If the original story followed the same path, Sevenus would lose a leg and descend into madness. Damn it, what am I thinking? Lost in deep contemplation, I stood there after Sevenus left. Kairos broke the silence. Wait, even if I'm a newbie god, surely there's a solution, right? Suddenly, a thought struck me and I hurriedly asked him, Kairos, do you know how strong the energy of the rift is? HM. It's not as powerful as Bahano. If I had to compare, it's similar to Baya's, but weaker than that. Baya's was the village where the 92nd child of the Mazine had been defeated, Shalom. If it was weaker than that, then Surshan's rift might be in a state where hidden route variables weren't applied. As far as I remembered, that should be the case. My little bird, why are you asking about this? I think I need to follow Sevenus. I see. You're worried about your brother. Yes. Even though Sevenus and I weren't particularly close, he was still family. Now that I knew what future awaited him, I couldn't just stand by. When I mentioned that I would go with him, Kairos hesitated for a moment and then spoke slowly. I, too, worry about those who will suffer due to the sudden rift. So, Levi, go and rescue your brother and the people of Surshan. As soon as his voice trailed off, the system window appeared. Subquest triggered. Subquest for the only brother objective. Move to protect Sevenus Holden and the citizens of Surshan, who worry the divine Kairos. Goal, seal the rift in Surshan, protect Sevenus Holden. Success. Failure, will you accept? Yes/no, I gaped. This quest didn't exist in the original story. It was purely Kairos' directive for me. I accepted the quest and replied, yes, Kairos. After accepting Kairos' quest, I immediately contacted Zane. Waiting in the temple's abbot room, Zane and Troy returned from cleaning the Bahano temple, holding cleaning tools. Master, what's suddenly going on? What's the matter? Zane and Troy sat across from me on the sofa, curious. We're heading straight to Surshan. A rift has opened there. By Kairos' command, we'll seal Surshan's rift. I briefly explained the situation to them, including Sevenus' sudden departure. If it's the Master's will or Kairos' command, we should follow. What you're saying is a bit strange. I'll help too. Troy, unaware of Sevenus' relationship with me, looked nonchalant, but Zane regarded me with an odd expression. At that moment, Kairos manifested in his puppy form. Levi, before you leave, let me share my power with you. Kairos. Troy's eyes sparkled like lanterns as he smiled at the adorable Kairos who had appeared before us. In response, Kairos floated through the air and approached Troy. I silently observed Kairos transferring energy to Troy. Then Zane stepped closer and whispered, Master, is your journey to Surshan solely because of Kairos' command? I disliked how perceptive Zane was. It was as if he had finally caught on to a weakness I hadn't revealed in a long time, and he asked again, Is it because of your brother? Yes, partly. But Zane tilted his head. Your brother is a strong knight, fully inheriting the bloodline of the Lord. If anyone can handle the rift, it's someone like him, right? I remained silent. If it were an ordinary rift, Zane's reasoning would hold. If it were a rift like the one that appeared in Roval with low-level monsters, Sevenus would likely survive. However, the rift insertion was anything but ordinary. As Zane had pointed out, it was a rift severe enough to endanger even the mighty Sevenus. In other words, it was a rift where a superior demon, a child of the Mazine, would emerge. Even though the order is lower, if my memory served me right, this time the 99th child of the Mazine would appear. For lesser or intermediate demons, even those without divine power could hone their skills to handle them. However, those without any divine power couldn't contend with superior demons. That's why Sevenus suffered in the original story. Regardless, I'll follow Cairo's wishes. Well, it works out. I wanted to use this guy too. Zane held up the bow he had received from the dwarf village, grinning. Meanwhile, as Troy conversed with the creature, Cairo's, who had bestowed power upon him, now lay on the sofa, revealing a pink belly, and Troy, with eyes filled with gratitude, knelt before Cairo's. What is this? A cat worshipping a dog? I chuckled softly and stood up. Before setting off, I donned a robe and flipped up the hood, then left the temple. Once we were out of sight, I climbed onto Troy's back. As he transformed into a black panther, there was no time to be detained by the guards patrolling the territory's borders. Following my instructions, Troy nimbly scaled the narrow wall. Startled by Troy's jumping ability once again, I gripped his fur tightly. Whoa! While I enjoyed the ride like an amusement park attraction, Zane's scream echoed from behind. Fortunately, Troy didn't crash to the ground. Master, which direction should we go? Northeast. I directed Troy toward the path leading to Sershan. Sershan's territory lay beyond the cartel forest to the northeast. Once I indicated the direction, Troy sniffed the air beyond and correctly oriented himself toward the scent of the approaching demon. Ah, it's been a while here. Not long after, we arrived at the cartel forest, a place we had visited during our previous dark wolf extermination mission. Although there was a path circling the forest, taking that route would undoubtedly make it difficult to catch up with Sevenus, who had already set off, so we entered the cartel forest directly. It feels like we just fought wolves here not too long ago. Time flies, Zane remarked, seemingly lost in thought as we swiftly passed through the forest. The once familiar cartel forest now lay quiet. Occasional herbivores grazed in the vicinity. There was no longer any fog or dark wolves. Are there humans living in this forest? Troy, too, seemed to be lost in contemplation as he observed the passing scenery. Yes, our followers reside here. Did you ever imagine there would be worshippers in a place like this? Yes. As I reminisced, we soon emerged from the cartel forest. From this point onward, a vast green meadow stretched towards Sershan. The only problem was, where has he gone? I couldn't spot Sevenus leading the Holden Knights anywhere. Perhaps they had already arrived due to the shorter distance between Holden and Sershan. Thankfully, Troy's speed was significantly faster, and we would soon catch up with Sevenus if we continued at this pace. The landscape blurred by rapidly. Despite the wind dislodging my hood, I paid it no mind. After all, I was traveling to Sershan as the High Priest of Cairo's, and not long after, the Sershan territory appeared beyond the wide meadow. We're almost there. From a distance, Sershan looked much smaller than Holden's domain. It consisted of a small castle surrounded by several villages. Although the size was modest, the orderly arrangement of buildings gave Sershan an appealing appearance. Well, it would have been beautiful originally. However, now a massive rift marred the sky above this lovely land. Look, the knights are visible. At Troy's words, I raised my head. Near the entrance to Sershan, a flag bearing Holden's emblem fluttered. However, I couldn't see Sevenus leading the charge. Dozens of mounted knights raced forward. We should prepare too. Though we still had some distance to cover, Troy's speed would get us there quickly. I retrieved a staff from my inventory. Zane, riding behind me, also drew his bow, the sound of it being readied audible, and shortly after we finally reached the crumbling entrance of Sershin. No guards were stationed at the entrance of Sershin. Most likely they were engaged in battle with monsters. Near the entrance, the fleeing locals, presumably residents of the territory, were in a frantic escape. Behind them, Screech, a massive harpy, swooped down. It swiftly snatched up a nearby person. Zane, I'm already on it. Swoosh thwack. Just as the harpy was about to ascend higher with its captured prey, Zane's arrow pierced through its head. Fortunately, those caught by the harpy fell from a low height, sparing them from death. I couldn't help but gasp in silent admiration at the sight. The reason was clear. When did he become so strong? The arrow Zane fired was imbued with a denser, holy power than before, and it flew with such speed that it obliterated the harpy before it could even react. Wow, I didn't expect this. Joyful exclamations also came from Zane. Judging by its power, the bow Zane received as a gift from Kadu and Lufu seemed to be of heroic grade. And since it was crafted using a mana stone of the same grade, Troy's armor must be of similar quality. From now on, we must be extra cautious, High Priest. Troy, having passed through the entrance of Sershin territory, shouted at me as if to emphasize the urgency. Those escaping Sershin were startled by Troy but were too preoccupied with fleeing from the monsters to pay much attention. As we ran further into the heart of Sershin, we should split up from here. Troy, who had been running vigorously, came to a halt. Zane and I could only agree with his suggestion. There are far more than we expected. That's why we're here. Inside Sershin, a considerable number of monsters were present. Orcs and goblins wielding blunt weapons and attacking the fleeing people were the first to catch my eye. I nodded slightly to Zane and Troy, who seemed to await my command, and then gave the order. Move as we did in Bahano, everyone. Yes, master. Understood. The command was clear: protect the people at all costs and eliminate the monsters. Soon after, Zane and Troy scattered in different directions. Not intending to leave everything to them, I too dashed towards the center. Thud, thump. I obliterated an orc that was about to devour some villagers with my mace. Run for your lives. I shouted repeatedly at the stunned onlookers, urging them to flee as I released holy power towards a harpy swooping in from the center. Boom! The holy power, smaller in size but denser, pierced through the harpy's head in an instant. Damn, there are so many. Where in the world is Sevenus? As I annihilated the monsters, I made my way through the crowd. I saw soldiers clad in armor battling monsters throughout the village, and among them were knights from the Holden family. Ugh, these hideous creatures. While searching for Sevenus, I heard a familiar voice near a collapsed building. Turning my head, I saw a fanatic facing off against an ogre, a mid-level monster. Isn't that the child who tormented you? Even Kairos seemed to recognize him. I hadn't been fond of the fanatic before, but not to the extent that I would ignore him in such a situation. The fanatic's sword was pushed back by the ogre's hand. Before he could be crushed, boom! I released holy power directly into the ogre's head, which was about to strike down the fanatic. The ogre, with its head pierced, vanished without even a scream, and the fanatic's gaze turned to me. You are the High Priest of Kairos. Where is Brother Sevenus? The young lord is at the forefront, but why are you here? Don't bother asking now. If you're curious, we can discuss it after the battle. Leaving the astonished fanatic behind, I pressed forward. The deeper I went into Sershin, the more Holden knights appeared. The knights valiantly fought against the monsters, easily dispatching the lower-level ones. The problem was the mid-level monsters. The knights were hindered in their fight against the mid-level monsters. Meanwhile, The lower-level monsters bypassed the knights to attack others. Boom! I continuously released holy power, swinging my mace relentlessly. The Holden Knights were surprised to see me, but there was no time for conversation. Crack! Suddenly, a loud noise came from the sky. My gaze instinctively turned towards it. Someone was tearing apart an already existing rift with their hands. A slender man with black skin and black wings. I recognized him immediately. Renette, the 99th child of the Demon King, the Nightmare Renette. In the latter half of the Wusabyup, no matter which route was taken, he was a figure who would inevitably appear in the war against the Demon King. Meanwhile, Renette, who had been surveying from the sky, seemed to have found his target and flew straight in one direction. Seeing this, I too ran towards where Renette was headed. If my hunch was correct, Sevenus would surely be there. I hope not. Worried that I might be too late, I clenched my teeth and ran as fast as I could. My child, I know you are strong, but still be careful. Yes, don't worry. I pushed through the monsters blocking the way, endlessly running towards the direction Renette had flown. Then, at some point, Renette disappeared from the sky. He had finally descended to the ground. I gripped my mace tightly and increased my speed. After dispatching another mid-level monster that hindered my sprint and leaping over the debris of a collapsed building at last, I saw Sevenus standing atop the ruins. He had just plunged his sword into a mid-level ogre. Huff, huff. He was visibly exhausted from the fierce battle despite his usually remarkable stamina. I ran even faster towards him. At that moment, Renette appeared behind Sevenus. Dodge! At my shout, Sevenus turned his head momentarily. In that brief moment of eye contact, Renette's black hand emerged from behind and grasped Sevenus' throat. With a guttural cry, Sevenus barely had a chance to resist before a dark energy flowed from Renette's hand, spreading through his body. Damn it! I immediately gathered the holy power within me and unleashed it towards Renette. Whoosh! The holy power I had mustered tore through Renette's wings. How dare you, mere human! Caught off guard by the unexpected attack, Renette's grip on Sevenus' throat loosened. Thud! Sevenus' body plummeted to the ground, the light fading from his eyes, lifeless to the point of being indiscernible. No, that can't be right. He's not dead, is he? Child, come to your senses. The boy is still alive. My head, which had been heating up in panic, cooled rapidly. Yes, Sevenus does not die here. Even in the original story, he may have gone mad, but he did not lose his life. I bit my lip hard. My wings! As I worried over the lifeless Sevenus, Renette, enraged by his torn wings, charged at me with a roar. I released my holy power directly at him as he approached. Whoosh! The holy power, now thinner than before, had shrunk to the size of a coin. It seemed too insignificant to take down a demon's offspring, but what I had focused on this time was not the volume of the holy power. It penetrates. It was the density. What in the world? As a result, a hole was pierced through Renette's brow, but I did not stop there. I channeled the remaining holy power into my mace. Bang! A white light spread over the holy mace. And without mercy, I struck Renette's head. Warning! You have slain Renette, the 99th offspring of the Demon Lord. The Demon Lord may become aware of your existence. To have slain the 99th offspring of the Demon Lord using almost all of my holy power. Such a feat would have been impossible if the number of believers had not exceeded 50,000. Still, I've become quite strong. It wasn't a bad outcome. Now, I could take down even superior demons on my own without anyone's help. Sigh. I steadied my ragged breath and approached Sevenus. My head spun from nearly exhausting all my holy power, but I couldn't just leave Sevenus lying there. I gently closed his eyelids, still open in unconsciousness, and hoisted him onto my shoulder. Thankfully, the daily physical training meant carrying Sevenus was not a burden. Child, are you all right? I can still hold on. I reassured Kairos, whose voice was filled with concern, and quickly surveyed the surroundings. No knights from the Holden family were in sight. I didn't want to have to explain why I was carrying Sevenus around. That place looked safe. Carrying Sevenus, I entered a building that had not collapsed, which appeared to be a library, judging by the scattered books. I laid Sevenus on the clean floor and sat beside him. Through the library window, I could see the rift slowly closing. Now, only the demons remaining in Insertion need to be dealt with. After that, Zane and Troy should be able to handle it. Their equipment should be flying around by now. You don't have much holy power left. Are you sure you're okay? I still have enough to heal Sevenus. It pains me to see you like this. Take this, though it's a meager amount of power. As Kairos spoke, a white light enveloped me. Every time the number of believers increased, Kairos gave me strength. His power must be limited. Thank you. It was clear he had exerted himself for my sake. It's nothing. It's only natural for my flock. Kairos's kind voice and the holy power invigorated me. Now it was time to heal Sevenus. I examined him carefully. Renette, the 99th offspring of the demon lord, was a nightmare demon. He bewitched the minds of his targets, forcing them into a world of nightmares. While the victim's mind wandered lost in the nightmare, Renette would brutally kill them. Even if they survived, their minds, muddled by Renette, would never return, driving them mad. In other words, what I needed to do was to restore Sevenus' mind. At least, it wasn't as severe as in the original work. In the original, Sevenus lost his leg to Renette while trapped in the nightmare. It was only after Renette voluntarily retreated upon realizing that the high priests of the church were coming to Insertion that Sevenus' life was spared. Ah, that reminds me, the priests of the Diego Church will be arriving. I need to finish up quickly. I took the hand of the unconscious Sevenus. Renette's attack was a kind of curse that tampered with the mind. Therefore, using a healing skill capable of mental treatment and curse removal should solve the problem. So, I immediately activated the healing skill towards Sevenus. Or rather, I should have. Suddenly, my vision blurred and my consciousness faded. In an instant, I lost consciousness. The moment after I attempted to heal Sevenus, I awoke in a realm of deep darkness. What's happening? Have I lost consciousness? Where am I? I had certainly lost consciousness right after using the healing skill on Sevenus. And now I found myself in darkness. Could it be that I've fallen asleep and am dreaming amidst all this? The absurd thought made me shake my head vigorously. I was too lucid to be asleep. Then a light appeared before me. Turning towards the light, I saw 4 spheres, each the size of a human head, floating in the void. Each sphere displayed a different scene, blurry as if the photographs were underdeveloped. I approached the spheres slowly, and upon reaching the one on the far left, its scene became clear. The first sphere showed a closed wooden door. What does this mean? Not understanding, I reached out to touch it. Tap. As I lightly touched the sphere, the static scene began to move like a video playing. I swallowed hard, watching the image in the sphere. The firmly closed wooden door opened. Through the small gap, a bed was visible. Then, a familiar voice flowed from the image. Unfortunately, young Master Reveloff is afflicted with Malone's disease.